This is Michael Van Avery, President and CEO of Republic Urban Properties, and this is Van Podcast. Today, we'll be talking with Case Swenson and what makes a great partnership. I've personally known the Swenson family now for almost 20 years and had the pleasure of working both with Barry Swenson of Barry Swenson Builder and now his son, who is, I believe, the fourth generation of the Swensons, as the Swenson Companies. We will get into subjects that delve with what makes a great partner to how our partnership has functioned over the past 16 years. I hope you enjoy this first inaugural Van podcast, in which we'll try to, once a quarter, dive a little bit into some of the subject matter of the real estate industry, my experiences working with individuals and subjects within the industry, and hopefully along the way we'll have some fun. So enjoy today's version of Van Podcast with Case Swenson, President and CEO of the Swenson Companies.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Yeah. So have you ever done one of these before?
I have not.
You've been behind a microphone, though.
I have. It's not pretty, but yes, I have been behind the mic.
So do you typically lead sing or backup vocals?
I don't. I do a little bit of backup, very little. I think the less singing I do, the better for the audience.
Okay. Well, then I'll be your lead vocal here, and you can harmonize in with me. How about that? Yeah. So we have a Case, amongst other things, has many hobbies, which we'll kind of touch on today, and his life here in San Jose and the greater Santa Clara County region. And, Case, look, I mean, it goes without saying that you have an incredible family legacy. And, I think some people know the story maybe about your father and your grandfather, but maybe you could tell me a little bit about like what your version of the legacy and how it's come together, how it happened with construction and real estate. I mean, I'd love to know, kind of your version of the legacy and what's going on right now with the Swenson family.
So my great grandfather came in from Ellis Island when he was 17, and 17-year-olds get a lot more parenting, I think, than what was happening back then. That was a big leap of faith for him, and he went to the coal mines in Chicago. One of the guys there told him that he shouldn't spend any time in there because everyone got black lung and they died when they were 40. So he decided to continue on west, and he went to Turlock, California, which is in the Sacramento Valley. And he was helping a farmer cut alfalfa. They put it all on the train, and the guy said, yeah, we'll pay you. And he disappeared. And they never found the guy ever again. So he was
in concrete?
No. Yeah, no kidding. So anyway, at that time, they needed housing. So he started building houses. And he was a really good superintendent, was able to push people fairly well. And so it did turn into more concrete and forming. And he started kind of not, I wouldn't call it a company, but a group of people that were, getting this done underneath another company. And they wanted to build the medical dental building here in San Jose, which is on 16th and Santa Clara. And so he came here to build that in 1922. And he was one of the superintendents there. And as the story goes, the concrete was his focus. And until my grandfather really got involved, he was primarily a concrete contractor, did things, like the linear accelerated, the Bixby Bridge, which is that very famous bridge you see down.
Is this Carl N. Swenson?
This is Carl N.
This is Carl N. Yeah, the legendary Carl N.
So so my grandfather then began to had a lot more diversity, and his there's actually an advertisement that says "Cradle to the Grave," and it's because we had built hospitals and we had built cemeteries, and pretty much everything in between. And so my grandfather was mostly a public works type of contractor, and then started getting into the development side and getting into real estate. Then my dad came along. And when my dad came along, development was his goal and his passion. He still had passion for construction, but he also was very in tune with the development side and finding ways to make more than just the money you make on a construction job. And so, my dad got involved in that company. And then in about 1977, my dad got fired from that company. At the same time, there was some family dissension going on.
Always.
And so anyway, my dad went out on his own, and my grandfather was, helped him kind of move along. And in the meantime, a couple of the brothers basically voted out my grandfather in about 84. And that company, Carl and Swenson, then dissolved. And it had a very short time at which the two other brothers ran it. When my grandfather moved out, they basically ran it into the ground in about 18 months.
So this is 1984 time around.
Yes.
And so now downtown San Jose is beginning the redevelopment, and this is kind of all happening around the same time, it sounds like.
It was. And there was real buzz in San Jose about that time, right?
Yeah.
And in the 90s, I mean,
Sure.
So anyway, I hope this dissertation's not too long. I'm trying to kind of move through it here.
You have a long history, so you're doing fine.
So my dad went out on his own, started doing the development, very focused on San Jose, and also the Santa Cruz area. So he was developing until until he was 75, and he's still working with me today and telling me how to do it and what to do and all that kind of stuff. And he's not as involved, unfortunately, but I still get him, trying to point me in the right direction. So that's.
If you were to say, so you mentioned the, kind of Carl N's kind of legacy, what would you say Barry's maybe legacy project was? What was his thing that he had so much going on in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Is there something that kind of sticks out for you?
So what sticks out for me is the Vendome apartment building, which is over by our office on First and Taylor. So he tried to get that entitled for 22 years. He actually had a note that he had sent to the city, and I forget exactly who it was sent to. So when we had the groundbreaking, he says, "I've been working on this for 22 years. I have this note to prove it." And it was the first time that high-rise housing was allowed in San Jose. What really got them over the line is that there were people, environmentalists, that finally bought into the fact that this sprawl is really affecting the environment. And the only way to fix that is to go up as opposed to out. So finally, once the environmentalists got behind it, they were able to get that entitled. So I think that to me, that was kind of what I think was my dad's, proudest moment, is that he was able to be really the first guy to put the high-rise housing here in San Jose.
And what year was that then, Dome? Do you remember?
So 95, right. 98, something like that.
Yeah. So, I'll interweave myself in there a little bit from the outside looking in. And about that timeline, you mentioned sprawl. I was working for the great dirt devils of the world, the Steve Schatz and then the Reed Gustafsons. And they were, of course, developing, the last subdivisions in San Jose. So there was this group of dirt devils, subdivision builders that was very prevalent during that time. And then there was Barry Swenson and the, Barry Swenson builder, and what he was doing all throughout the downtown with redevelopment and, the Jim Foxes and of course, what happened with the Fairmont and the Great Lou Wolf and those things. And I remember thinking to myself, like, that's so much more interesting kind of than what I'm doing, which is, trailblazing, farmland and things like that. I think that was a defining moment. I think what really synced it in, of course, is the amazing parties that Mark Ritchie and Barry would have and Music in the Park, and I always remember thinking they were so much more fun than, the dirt devils who it just didn't have those kinds of interactions with the city. I always admired that. And I always admired your father's. He never took himself too serious, whereas some of the dirt devils took themselves extremely serious. And so, it's just amazing. It's just an incredible experience for you to work with your father, I would imagine, and on the level that you're working with him on.
I feel so lucky. I can't even begin to tell you. And he is, like you say, not too serious. And he really does a great job at coming off like that. but he's got a lot going on upstairs. And even though you might think he's ho hum and that kind of thing, he's amazing. Some of the things that I've seen, I am so thankful to have been able to witness. And so many times when I wanted to chime in, and I just when he's in the room, I just keep my mouth shut, and then people keep talking, and he'll say like 4 words at the end of this 2-hour meeting, and it's like, oh, nice one. Good job, dude. And it's such a neat way to see, how he negotiates, and he cannot be beat in Monopoly. Cannot be beat. I don't care. I'll give you an extra 500 and you'll still will not beat him, because he's just he's really crafty about the way. I mean, even with bad rolls, I swear to God.
So you guys actually play Monopoly. I find myself not wanting to play it because I feel like we're playing it every day.
That's pretty true. We haven't played. I mean, we haven't played for a long time, like 30 years, but his way around the board and his negotiations and he'll keep himself alive. And you'll look over and you kind of want him to stay in the game, and he's only got $50 left, and he owes you 100, and you're like, it's fine, you can take a pass and catch me on the next one. And then pretty soon he pulls a 500 out from the bottom of the board and says, I'm going to put some hotels here, and you're going, wait, I didn't know you had a 500. I mean, it's just good stuff like that.
Yeah, what I always admired about the Swenson companies, and I learned this from Barry, and I think Republic operates in the same way, is the ability to work with partners. And when Republic made its way west in 2006, and ultimately the great Norman Y. Mineta went to Barry and said, look, we have a partner from the East, and would you be interested in working with him? And that was Richard Kramer at the time, and of course the chairman of Republic. And Barry was 100% open to it, but he was also 100% making sure that it was someone who could actually, ride as fast as he can ride, ride that horse or that plane or however fast, but making sure that that partner was going to stand shoulder to shoulder. And, it took some time to earn his, so I had to be the one to kind of earn his trust. And here I am, 39 years old, trying to actually convince, one of the legends of our time, of our industry, at least here in Santa Clara Valley, that this outsider is going to be a great partner. And so the funny thing is, we had gotten the partnership agreement to a point where it couldn't be negotiated any longer, and it was about Barry, making that leap of faith to sign it. So I showed up at one of these, the soirees that Mark Ritchie and Barry would have at Music in the Park and Cesar Chavez. And I was kind of, you and me, I can be a little impatient. And I said, Barry, look, God damn it, it's time for you to sign this thing. And he was mad. He said, God darn it, don't you pressure me, and I'm not going to do this. And I'm like, uh-oh. I mean, he got pissed at me. He didn't throw me out of the party, which I probably would have done in his shoes, but he made me feel pretty darn bad. But to his credit, literally maybe about 3 or 4 hours later, he said, you know what, Michael, you're right. It's time to move this forward. I understand. And we're going to get this done. And damn it, if we didn't sign that contract the next day, which was, those parties are always on Thursday. And I know we were probably all hungover on Friday. Yeah, possibly. And he did it. So I can't tell you how much that meant to Republic and what the Swenson families have meant to Republic. Literally have given us our start here on the West Coast. And as a native San Josean, it's amazing. So now you are in charge of Swenson. You've been an amazing partner, just like your father and your grandfathers before you. How are you doing now as the CEO and the person in charge? You have a large. How many employees do you have now at Swenson?
150.
That's a lot of employees. How's that going? Now, especially in this world that we live in, and how do you see things moving forward with Swenson companies in the future?
First, I'd like to just circle back a little bit on what you just said. I know that you were saying that you looked at my dad as a legend. I know that he would look at you the same way. And I think Richard as well, and the help that you've given. I know that how much he appreciates your partnership and has always said great things. And I wanted to make sure we, talked about that a little bit, and maybe we can revisit. But he would definitely look at you in the same way, being young, getting started, starting your own thing. Mm-hmm. He has a lot of appreciation for that.
Thank you. Yeah, well, he's a big mentor in that process. So I appreciate that. He looks at things a lot differently than Richard. he looks at things from the ground up and knows where the value comes from the actual construction. Whereas maybe Richard and to a great extent myself might look at things a little bit more from the financial side. And as you know, that you miss a lot if you're only looking at it one way. So I've learned so much, and no, thank you. It's been a pleasure. But I mean, now you're moving forward into this thing. It's your gig now, and we're working together on stuff. I mean, how are you feeling? What is it like for you?
Well, first of all, I absolutely love my job. And I mean, barring being Tiger, without the shenanigans,
Yeah.
I got to tell you, there's nothing else I'd rather do. There's no other place I'd rather be. So I am very thankful to my dad and my grandfather and great to be in this position, to be able to do what we do. It is challenging every day. I haven't had a moment of boredom. And I would love one, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And I really enjoy putting it all together. And there are so many moving parts, as you were just discussing, that you just can't imagine how much goes into building a building. They use the term groundbreaking for a reason. When you get to break ground, you have done a gargantuan lift to get to that point. And so I really appreciate every building that's been built, every house that's been built. I mean, it's really something to be a part of that. And so I really appreciate just the position that I'm in, and working at the bigger company. It's very different than I had the smaller company, and it was a lot more nimble, and you could move and you could be a part of everything. In the bigger company, you have you can move it, but it's like a big boat as opposed to a small boat,
Right, yeah.
where you have to be a little slower to get things where you want them to go. And I think the hardest part is, as you get into a bigger business, you have to delegate more and let go, because you cannot be a part of everything as much as you want to be.
Yeah.
And so, but all the while you're still responsible for everything. So having the right people in the right place is the key to success, in my opinion, of any company. And having people that really push hard, work hard, treat every dollar like it's their own,
Yeah.
treat every customer or tenants like their customers, and customers, have them be their highest priority. And so for me, it's just a little it's just a little different. It's the same stuff, but generally the problems are a little bigger, kind of like little kids have little problems, big kids have big problems.
Right,
And but once again, I'm thankful to be in the position that I am.
Yeah, no, I think the transition has been as smooth as anything I've ever seen. And that's a credit to your relationship with your family, I think, most importantly. And, I think you were so good when your dad was in charge. You're so affable and friendly. And I think people really gravitate towards that. So you have natural leadership abilities. Plus, you're a damn good athlete, which always helps. And, and seriously, it's interesting because when the transition happened, and me, of course, I'm kind of a ball breaker, as you know, and I like
No.
to, oh yeah, there's a little bit. And yet I felt like when we first met and we got into some of our business issues, and business is kind of like sports in the sense that you're both competing, who's trained harder to be the better, businessman or athlete, and how are we going to implement, and who's going to score the hoop or the goal, or going to have the best putt, right, to make it finish the game, or who's going to have ski the best black diamond, right? All those, kind of anecdotes that go with business. And I felt like you were able to really, you have a selflessness about you where you were able to understand, like, look, this is a partnership that I've got to work on and work for while also leading my organization and what's best. So I have to tell you, I put you through the grinder, pretty good. And despite that, you emerged. I think our friendship emerged and partnership even stronger. So, thank you for that. That's been a pleasure, because a lot of less people would probably, in business sometimes when you challenge some people, they just retreat or they get pissed, right? Or they, it's easy to name call or this or that. And yet it's harder. I think for me, it's easier just to keep moving forward, right? And I think you've always demonstrated that, and that's true leadership in my opinion. So thank you for that.
Well, moving forward is all you can do. There's just you can't go back, right?
That's
And
true.
so, I thought we had a great relationship. I mean, I love working with you because you don't mess around. You tell me exactly what you're thinking, and I don't like to play games, and that's never been a great style in business, as far as I can tell. There's a lot of Jedi mind tricks out there that people can play. I think that it just slows down the process. Put your cards
True.
on the table. Everybody's there to everybody's in business to make money so that they can continue and keep doing what they do and employ people and give back to the community. And so you have to be fair and make sure that it's a win-win. And
Mhm.
and that to me is something that I think Republic's been very good at. And I also have had partners where that's not the way it is, and they just want to win and have a loser, or have someone that's just doing it because they had a card they could play.
Right.
And that's fine. And but then, and I'm thinking of someone in particular right now. And so there a new project came up,
Hmm.
and they potentially could have been our partner. And I didn't even think about it because of how hard they ground us on the first one.
Mhm.
And so that's okay. I mean, and they won, and that was okay with me. But now you won the battle, but what about the war? Because
Right.
not only that, we potentially could have done a couple more, because they were very interested in the Bay Area. They're not actually from here,
Sure.
and I think we could have done an awful lot together. But that was a one-time deal.
Yeah, you always feel like, when I have a few of those too, and you always feel like, gosh, why couldn't we do more deals together? And you're right. It's like, it's just not worth it, right? I mean, you spend a fair amount of emotional time invested in a partnership, regardless of the money, right? There's just navigation of life and getting through that, and then you realize, I think it's like any other relationship. If it's too difficult, and again, even if the money's good, it's not about the money. Sometimes it's about, am I enjoying this partnership, and how do we, are my subordinates, is my team happy with this partnership, and sadly, if not all of those work together, you're probably just going to say, yeah, you know what, we'll say nice things about each other because we made money, but that's about it, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
that's kind of how it
Where
goes.
you and I are going to do lots more, and
Absolutely.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I'm kind of excited about, 2021, not for the obvious reasons of the world in general, but just because I feel like there's been a little bit of a reset, in that, it was pretty frothy here, in the South Bay and the Bay Area. Hard, as you know, to get things to pencil and work out. So how are you feeling about 2021, moving forward here, and what are some of the things that you think are going to happen, in our industry that are going to be positive?
So I'm just going to be super honest with this one. And I am seeing some new energy. I'm seeing the banks kind of call us back, and where they were telling us their pencils were down on certain
Mhm.
types of things. So I am seeing some energy, and I've got 3 or 4 things that are on the 1 or 2 yard line,
Mhm.
but nobody's signed yet. And
Mm.
one of the things I'm thinking is that this energy might be because we've been cooped up for so long, and we're
Yeah.
all trying to get something done, and everybody's really going after it. But when it boils down, the loan terms are not great,
Yeah.
and the cost of the money can actually turn a project so that doesn't work.
Right.
And so I'm hopeful, and it feels good right this minute, but I haven't seen anything actually happen that says, okay, we're rolling again. And
Yeah.
and so you know, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I would echo what you're saying. Literally, it's just, it's getting, so you can get something in contract, and then you underwrite it, and then you say to yourself, ouch, I mean, this is not a 2021 project for sure. Will it be a 2022 project? Maybe. And then it's kind of hanging. It reminds me a little bit of like 2010, when we were coming out of the Great Recession. There was new energy. We'd reset things a little bit. And that's actually when your your father called me in the office one time and said, "Hey, Michael, what about that Meridian project you have there? You who's going to build that for you? And I said, oh, I guess you are. I guess you are, Barry. And he said, that's right. That's what I wanted to hear. And I kind of feel like we're a little bit there again. Like, I'm waiting for, you or one of my other partnerships to say, hey, I've got this opportunity. Let's figure it out. And yet it's still not quite there. And people are still reticent to maybe make that move. I don't know if that's something you're feeling as well.
It really is. And I know it's going to break. And, we're going to get the BART station here.
Mhm.
That is coming. It only took them 50 years. They've been working on it since 1972.
Yeah.
Which it'd be nice if they could have circumnavigated the bay in less than 50 years. But here we are. And, being able to get in and out of San Jose, I know that 55% of the people that work at Apple come from the South.
Mhm.
There's all sorts of stats out there, and, don't write that down. But, I think one day that we are going to have more than just Adobe here. I thought
Mhm.
Adobe was going to be the catalyst that would get us rolling on that. Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen. Thankful that they are here, and looking forward to that next tech, enterprise tech company to actually make that leap.
Well, that's a good segue. I mean, downtown, has been a big part of your family's business, from, like you said, the 19 probably 70s forward, if not sooner. And you've been a big part of that landscape. I mean, there's a lot of guys and gals that are pretty optimistic, almost bordering on, a little bit delusional, in my opinion. A lot of self-promoting about downtown. Yet you've been here, you've built buildings, you own buildings, you're a landlord. You know, are you as optimistic as some of these other folks, or what's your baseline on downtown, understanding your experience? Downtown San Jose.
Well, I am optimistic. And the one thing I love about San Jose is our community. When we go to this, and I'm mostly talking about the real estate community, but I'm also talking about just our entire community here. But when we go to the mayor's breakfast and we go to these different gatherings that we do, the brokers and those kinds of things, I really like who our group is. And it's a lot of very smart, energetic, neat people, and I'd like to see us be able to make San Jose a place that is a magnet. And I think that the people that we have here have been trying, and I think there's been a lot of things that have happened where we haven't been able to make something happen. Santana Row would be a good segue there. We could have done it here somewhere, and we've had multiple, international developers that have come in and said, "Okay, here's the deal. We're going to take over this south of First Street or Market Street or wherever,
Right.
and we're gonna build this or that or the other thing." I think that it's unfortunate that we haven't been able to really do that, and I'm hopeful that in the future that we do plan a little better so that we can have different pockets for retail, different pockets for medical, different pockets for grocery, where we can actually, provide a better place to live if you have a family.
More focus. Yeah. Well, that's a good segue. I mean, so it sounds like you're, as usual, and most of us, we're all, try to be optimistic, but I mean, so you're mayor for the day in San Jose. God forbid a developer become mayor or president or something like that. But you're mayor for the day, and what would you do in San Jose, as mayor of the day, and make San Jose a better place for our industry, but for our citizens too?
Well, Sam has a very tough job. There is no question about that. If I could be mayor for a day, I'd want it safer and cleaner. And
Yeah,
it is one of those things that just rubs off everywhere.
Yeah.
And yesterday we had somebody break into our building.
Oh.
They smashed the Sonatrol box.
Oh, jeez.
And it opened up all the elevators, and they went in and they ransacked all sorts of stuff.
Oh, man.
And it's that kind of thing. And what concerns me most is that, are we trying to catch him? What would we do once we did?
Yeah.
I mean, we bring him in. I mean, does he actually get punished? And I'm sorry, I don't want to punish anyone
Sure.
ever. But
Well, crime's a crime.
if you can carry around 3 pounds of weed and meth and needles and God knows what else, and you go to jail, it's like, hey, well, those are my possessions. Make sure they're there when I get back out. I mean, I'm making stuff up here, but I truly think that there should be consequences, and that our police should be heralded, that we should have them absolutely paid better, have more backup, have more help, and have the support that they need to really do their jobs, to provide safety for our community, which is something that I can't believe we actually have to have that conversation, that we don't have a safe environment, and people are doing smash and grabs and coming into people's houses at night. We're on a neighborhood watch thing, and it's happening, in my neighborhood. And my kids actually slept on the floor last night because my wife was talking about it at dinner. They couldn't go to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm like, what the heck? I let them sleep because I figured they were just hanging out.
Sure.
And then woke up this morning. They're like, Daddy, no, we were scared.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't have that here in California.
I feel like, unfortunately, as mayor of the current mayor, he has a big heart, but having a big heart doesn't necessarily mean it's powering your brain to do the right thing, But again, these are tough ones, right? You've been down here a long time.
They absolutely are. And our budget is not that great, which is a crime as well, considering all the income that comes in through the Santa Clara County. And with the property taxes we pay and things like that, I know a lot of it goes back out in the pensions. I know that Pierre Luigi was big on trying to get that reformed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that pensions are important, but if you retire when you're 12 and then you go to another place and you get another pension, then you go to another place and you get another pension, then you go work for the private sector, these are the kinds of things that we should be watching.
Yeah.
And we all know that happens. And it's taking away from the safety of our city.
Right.
One of those pensions could potentially be a police officer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it's important that business leaders like you and I'm looking a little. We, of course, the Swenson Company is a Republic where we've been big investors in Midtown San Jose. We've seen, thanks to Swenson Companies, we have Del Monte Park, so we've been able to see what will happen when you build a park, you build, new investment, in our case, market rate apartments. And then what has gone on around there, I'm taking it a step further, and I'm challenging council members, city staff, city managers, that a recycle center across the street from a market rate development and your beautiful mercantile, building where Hoppus Brewery is, that recycle center probably doesn't need to be there anymore. That liquor store probably doesn't need to be there anymore. So I'd like to challenge the city of San Jose to be a little bit more pragmatic about zoning, right? I mean, how many years are we going to go on with them telling us what's better zoning than the market? I mean, do you still feel that way?
The honest answer is I think that ship has sailed. I think that the zoning that we have worked on has not been great. And I'm not talking about last week. I'm talking about for the last 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see it be a lot less short-sighted. Whether or not, you have industrial next to housing and that kind of thing, I'm sort of okay with that, as long as we're, keeping it safe and trying to keep it clean and not have it be a hazard. But I just, when I look at, saving parks and things like that, speaking of our, the Guadalupe Gardens, I mean, that I was working with Mary Hammer trying to put a driving range in there back in 1993. And I was going to pay her, I think it was like $15,000 a month, raising with CPI at least. And I was going to put down the money and the whole thing. And all of the profits were going to go back to the Guadalupe Gardens. Couldn't get it over the line.
That would have been big.
Well, it'd be nice to have $30,000. Now it'd be you could probably pay $50,000 a month. Easy. And you could use that $50,000 a month to pay policemen, to pay people to clean it up. And you wouldn't have to clean it up as often if you had the eyeballs down there.
Right.
And I think that there's a great opportunity with the Guadalupe Gardens. And I think since the 90s when we actually made it a park, and I'm not sure what it was really before, but that's when I started getting involved. And why don't we have something down there that's creating revenue?
Right.
one thing. I mean, even, like the ice rink, soccer complex like we have down in South County, or right there by Hellier Road.
Sure.
I mean, where you play volleyball and all those things, and take the profits from that and put it back into our park, so that it's like Central Park. I mean, it's some place where you go running and bringing your kids and have an ice cream cone and that kind of thing. Because we had friends that moved in from Singapore.
Sure.
And they said they moved downtown. So like downtown San Jose, they moved downtown, and they said, well, where do we go get an ice cream? Like, what do we do with our kids?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, go to Campbell.
Yeah.
Go to Los Gatos. I mean, that's the honest answer. And I hate to have to say that.
It is true. It's sad that, I mean, as a native San Josean, I completely concur with you. We have all the potential, yet we don't execute. It's just been so prevalent, and yet there are some parts of the city that you can get that, right? Willow Glen, I think, probably is the best example. Blossom Hill, Almaden, and Rose Garden kind of have that similar feel. But you're right. What's the incentive for a young family to move to downtown right now? And it's hard. You don't even really have any green space, that they can play in. And certainly St. James is, there's just so many issues, and it becomes overwhelming to me. I know, we're leaving downtown. I've been here for 16 years in the downtown with Republic, and now we're building an office building in Willow Glen. And I'll tell you, because the employee experience has diminished, and yet I am also seeing in the future that there's going to be a lot of construction here, which I'm positive about, right? So but knowing construction, I know that that's going to be an issue, for a long time downtown. So I pray that that our leaders recognize the issues that we were talking about, more about the figuring out ways with the county to handle some of our probably our poverty and homelessness, and maybe this can happen there. Well, look, we're heading into I guess I've been told that these van podcasts can only go on for about 40 minutes. So I guess kind of in conclusion, I mean, we're you're happy with what's going on in your life, and you think your children maybe will join the Swenson family someday in some role. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, they're 12 basically.
Oh, they're almost ready.
So my daughter wants to be a lawyer. I hope she's focused on real estate. That'd be good. And my son wants to do what I do, but we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah.
It would break my heart if we couldn't keep the business rolling. And I think it would break my dad's and grandfather's and great grandfather's heart. But he might want to be a pilot or whatever he is, and we're going to support that either way. But grooming him along, trying to make sure that we don't spoil him too much, which is very important, I think.
As good as skiers as you?
He's getting there. He can bring it.
You can bring it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a hell of a skier too, I hear. So we gotta hit the slopes one of these days. It's been a pretty decent ski season so far. Mm-hmm. So you've been out getting out there a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
A few days in. So
that's what we got to keep doing. Well, look, this has been wonderful, Case. Thank you so much from the inaugural Van podcast here, and we'll happy to have you back. And what else would you like to say, kind of in conclusion?
Well, I want to thank Republic. It's been a great partnership. I want to thank Richard, and for him hiring you. That was a really good call. And I really appreciate what you've been able to put together here, Michael, and what you've done. And having, Richard be remote and put that much faith in you really says a lot about who you are. And I just want to thank you and your company, for being great partners. And let's do a lot more. And to take a quote from Richard, onward and upward.
That's right. The great Richard Kramer, the great Baron Swenson. We're so lucky and fortunate to have him in our lives. So, well, thank you, Case. And I guess now we'll go back to work and try to find some more deals together.
Sounds good.
God
Thanks.
Bless.